There we go. Good stuff. Benny D, how would you like to be known here on this channel? Would you like to be known formally as Ben or Benjamin Delmas, or just Benny D? Which one works
Nah,
better for you?
definitely not. I don't want to be known anywhere as Ben or Benjamin Delemos. That is that's my father's name. No, call me Benny. Call me Benny D, man.
Hold up. Benjamin Delmas, that's your father's name?
No, no, but it sounds funny when I say
Okay. Right, yeah, I was gonna have to start calling you Junior for a second there.
it.
We'll stick to we'll stick to Benny D here for this call. Good to have you on here. For the people that aren't familiar with what you do and your journey so far, give us a little introduction on where you're from, what you do right now, and what you're currently working on.
Sure, dude. I'm the COO of Conceptpreneurs. We do about six figures every single month. And I'm from the East Coast, Boston, Massachusetts, 27 years old. And the goal right now is to scale to at least $300,000 a month and then a mil a month.
Boom. A mil a month, that's the goal in the next 12 months, right? Your journey interests me a lot, Benny. And the reason why is, and I was actually going through this the other day, you went through the ranks so quick, right? So you went from just coming into sales at the start of last year, right? 2023.
Yeah.
And within 12 months, you went from just being an appointment setter to being a COO. Was it that time frame or was it even shorter? Because I'm sure it was even sooner than that.
It was about that. Yeah, January 2023, I started working DMs with Ted and discovery calls. 3 months in, I started doing sales calls. 6 months in, we started to delegate the DM setter position to you. And a year in, we hired a discovery caller, another DM setter, bumped you up to closer, and I became the COO of Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Wow. That was such a quick turnaround. You was my first mentor in sales as well. Before I met you, I'd done like nothing. I never sold anything online in my life, right? And that journey, why do you think it was so quick for you to go from complete beginner? You didn't have any sales experience before, right? Before you got into the online game?
I mean, where I grew up, you either played basketball, you sold drugs, you made music, and I did all three. So
Right,
that's the experience I had before.
right. So you had zero experience and you came in and a couple months later you're running an entire business. What would you attribute the speed of that to? Why do you think you came in and you went through that transition so quick and so easily?
I was just listening to a reel from JJ Hernandez. He was the closer for Iman Ghazi's team. He's now doing his own thing. And he was talking about how sales is so simple because it's just human interaction. And I spent a decade, the first decade of my business career, focusing on building a music business. And so I had to learn how to speak. I had to learn how to interact with people. Had to learn how to be charismatic. And there's a large overlap in the sales department of just being a good person and being able to relate with people. So carrying over a decade worth of experience from music, which you also study tonality into sales, was really, really beneficial. And it gave me a big head start when I jumped in.
Interesting. I like how you mentioned tonality there as well, because that's something that having invested into other sales programs myself, a lot of people shit on that. People say that tone isn't important whatsoever. And I do agree that the actual questions you ask are always going to be most important. But one thing I got from Ted and you is that the quality of answers that we get is always directly correlated to the tone in which the questions were asked. What do you think about that?
Completely agree. You'll never see somebody, you see the hypnotist, you'll never see a hypnotist put someone to sleep by yelling at them. They're always talking like this, and their tone is very hypnotic and is very calming. You need to be able to master tone to be able to get the result you want.
Boom. Same thing with music, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're either a screamo artist or a hip hop artist. It's difficult to put one on the other.
No, no, I would have loved to see which one you were. I imagine you went
A
through.
little bit of both. That's why it didn't work
Right,
out.
right, right. Yeah, I imagine you went through some transitions there. We'll go straight into it then as well. I want the people watching this to understand. the inner workings of a successful seven-figure sales team. And I want them to really know exactly how they can get themselves rich, how they can get their team rich, and how they can get clients rich as well. So the first phase, right, getting you rich, what was you doing like on a day to day? What was you doing when you first came into sales? You never done anything beforehand on selling online. What was you doing to make you rich as soon as possible on a day to day?
Was just working all day. I still have the videos up on my community of waking up, sit down at the computer, puffy face because I hadn't slept, right? And I was just eating whatever came in front of me. And I would just run DMs for 4 or 5 hours. And then I would get on all the discovery calls for 3 to 4 hours. And then I would do follow up for 2 hours. And then I would try and crush the gym or go for a run. And then I would go to sleep and wake up and do it again. So just absolutely doing everything I could in the amount of time that I had. So that's the first way to get ahead is just use all of your time for the goal of getting ahead. And then it gets to the point where you realize you just can't do everything that you want to do with the time allotted. And that's when you start to delegate.
There's no other way around that, is there, in terms of the time? I feel like every single successful person in sales who I know all went through the same thing. I went through it myself where I just ate shit for like 3 months, locked myself in my room and just grinded, bro.
Well,
I'm
if
just
you call
grinding.
it eating shit, then nobody's gonna want to do it. But yeah, that's what it is, dude. That's what it is. You got to eat shit for 6 months and get really good at eating shit. So then you can teach other people how to eat shit, and they'll
Yeah,
listen because you've already eaten shit.
that's the thing. You have to eat shit because like, you can get to the next level and you can say I made it. And then you bring other people in. And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah. And then you learn how to eat shit in different ways as well, right? Every part of the business is eating shit. It's just what type of shit do you like to eat? You know?
That's a good
You
way of
know?
saying it. Yeah, it's one to think on. I've never thought of it that way, but when you think of it, it's like you're either eating shit in here or you're either eating shit out there, right? Doing what you're doing before, like working a job, working 9 to 5, whatever it is. So it's like, what would you rather do? And I think
Boom.
most people watching this would definitely stick with the latter there in terms of eating shit but making money online, realizing you can get to the next level and then growing from there, right?
Yeah, realizing that there's no cap to your income is a really freeing feeling. Realizing that you really don't rely on anybody else is a really freeing feeling because there's always more offers and the experience will transfer effortlessly and easily. And life is hard regardless, so you might as well get rich and get into the best shape of your life and take care of your people.
That's the message right there. You glowed the fuck up as well, by the way, because I was going through the top set of calls and you had the pitch black hair, right? I don't know if it was a high top you had at the time or what. You had the old chair, and now here you're in the school tee. You're in, where are you, California right now?
Yeah, we're in the school headquarters right now, California, El Segundo.
El Segundo right now. Wow. Yeah. Big transformation. In terms of when you brought me on, that was only when you was like a few months into sales yourself. And I remember our first conversation we got on and we just vibed, right? And at the end of the call, you was like, hey bro, like we're actually looking for someone right now to take some phone calls for us, right? Do some cold calling. How did you know that that was the right time to start delegating from the point that you was in the business?
Well, I didn't have time to do everything, and I really didn't want to do any more cold calling. I was like, "Maybe this guy will do it." And you did it, bro. And that's my favorite test is giving away the worst task possible and seeing the person's reaction. Because 99% of people will be like, that sounds horrible, and will say no. And you went, yeah, that sounds horrible. Yeah, let's do it. And that's the test of greatness, right? If you can put a horrible task and somebody can say, this is horrible, but I know in the future this could lead to something exciting. And that's like being able to think like a human as opposed to thinking like an animal, which is why I really love that Dune scene where he puts his hand in the box and
Yeah.
they put the fire underneath it and he has to keep it in because an animal instinct is to just pull out. But when you're a human, you can think past that and understand that you need to pass the test. And that's the test that I delivered to you and you passed it with flying colors.
Whoa, bro, I remember that time so well. I was in my uni room and I was just taking calls like all day. I was doing that shit and I got so gassed. I remember every time I would book someone, I would take a picture like on my phone and I would just send it to you. on IG, like, hey, I booked someone. And I was like, oh, here's another one. I used to get like so gassed, even though I wasn't even making anything at the time. Like I wasn't closing, I wasn't setting someone up on a sales call. Like I was literally just phoning old leads, and every time I booked someone, I just got so gassed, and I just
Yeah,
sent them a message.
that's such a good point to jump on. Like for you, what do you love more? Is it the end result, or do you have you fallen in love with the process?
The process, man. I love the process. Yeah, the end result is always what I have in mind, but I feel like if you can't learn to love the process, like I think ultimately, no matter how strong the end result is, you're never really gonna get past that if you can't. I think the quote is, have you heard that saying? It's like, don't learn to run away from the storm, learn to dance in the rain.
Ooh, that's beautiful. It's so romantic.
Yeah, very, very romantic. Hey, I just remembered that, and I was like, shit, like it was just progression. Me booking those people in, I saw that, and I was like, wow, I'm actually delivering. This guy has brought me on because you took a risk on me as well. I was like, in my mind as well, I felt the responsibility. I was like, well, shit, this guy brought me on. I don't want to make him look bad, do I? So I have to perform. I have to do my best. And I did, and it paid off, and I got to the next level.
That's a big piece. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good perspective to have. Taking responsibility for yourself and other people's reputation, huge.
I went through that same shift as well more recently, actually, after we did like the team retreats. And I got to know some of the coaches, and I was like, whoa, like these coaches are like amazing. I love this team. I love this business. After that point onwards, every time I got on a call, I was like, this isn't just for me here. Like I'm beating my whole team. And I have to, because if I don't do this, then no one's gonna eat. So I feel like having that responsibility, whatever you anchor it to, you need that. Because if you don't, what else are you doing this for? You know?
Yeah, that's that's the next level of entrepreneurship or even just in the sales realm of going from, okay, you're just like a lone samurai to then finding your cheetah pack, right? Finding your people. And now it's not just you that you're fighting for, it's everybody around you. And that does push you a lot further. That does push you a whole lot further. That's very well said.
You look after your own, man. That's
Yeah.
what I realized. You look after your own and you make sure they're good. And just looking at that then, so I came into the business at a point where the sales team was relatively new at that point, it's fair to say, right? I was doing cold calling and then I moved into taking DMs and discovery calls. You just hired Dan, right? Who was brought on to take discovery calls. And Nate was kind of still in and out of the business. So really it was just me, you, and Dan at that point. And now our team has grown a lot and we've brought on some absolute killers who have crushed it. So the broad question I want to ask is how do you do that? What steps do you take? If you're a business that's making anywhere from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K a month, and you want to take it to that next level, and you don't want to settle for having sleazy or shitty sales reps, how do you do that?
That's a great question. So, number one, hopefully you're not a sleazy, shitty person, because my best advice would be to hire from your own community. So, put out a post on social media or wherever most of your leads are attracted from and say, hey, look, we're hiring. If you think that you'd be a good fit to work with me, then shoot me a DM and then grab from your own community because they're probably already accustomed to your offer. They're probably resonating with your lifestyle and they're probably a lot like you. So as long as you're a really cool dude or a really cool woman, then you can bring on people who are really, really cool. That's my number one. And that's what Sam Ovens would say. Hire from your own community. Number two, hire from referrals. Ask your coolest friends and say, hey, do you have anybody that would be awesome? And then number three, you can go looking around and like go through a business where they hire for you. But the best way to do it is to get from your community.
Interesting. I never would have thought that before we did that ourselves. I always thought if you want a sales rep, you go out and you find someone who has gone through a sales program or you check the DMs, right? But why within your own community? Why do you
Well,
feel like those people come in and get the best results?
number one, they got your energy, so they're already going to rock with you. So, like for example, for us, we all eat very healthily, right? Ted is a fruitarian. I'm pretty much vegan. A lot of us all eat whole foods. We're very health minded. We're very fitness minded. We're all in really great shape. And so, since we're all on that same page, the people we attract most likely are attracted from Ted. Since we are a lot like Ted, they trust us and they'll buy from us. Now, for example, if Ted was in great shape and then the salesperson, you or I, were super fat and we ate a bunch of meat, then the people who get on the sales calls with us would not resonate with our message because they resonate with Ted's message. And sales people people buy because of the sales rep. They don't buy because of the program. They buy because of the person in front of them. So it's really important to be as similar to the head that is attracting all the leads as possible.
Interesting. And how important is looking the part in that as well? Because when you was talking through that and you mentioned guys getting on who are overweight, who don't look after themselves, immediately in my mind, I go on to the times where I've got on the call with other sales reps, other programs, or other training courses that I've been involved in. And the sales rep has turned up and it's a completely dark background. You can't really see them clearly. They're not looking the best, right? In terms of it's quite evident that they've just woken up and they're really not set up to look professional. I think a lot of people could hear more about that because that was one of the very first things we did with me, right? What I'm tempted to do actually is put in, just input like a training clip here in this point, and just have like an old clip of top setter so that people can see where I was at before, how I was in the mud at that time and where I am now. But how important would you say that is, like looking the part?
Dude, it's everything. I'm not going to take fitness advice from somebody who's fat. I'm not going to take investment advice from somebody who looks broke and has a shitty webcam, right? Visuals are everything. People judge based on visuals. That's just the way it is. I think we can all agree on that. We could get into depth about like, guys, if you're still fat in 2024, like what the heck are you doing? But I think everybody already knows that the better you look, the more money you make. Ted would say, the less you weigh, the more money you make, right? So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, if I was someone new watching this, I would key takeaway just I would get a new webcam, I would get a dope backdrop, and I would just walk my talk because that's part of it and leadership as well. That's the big thing that I realized. And even those physical things like going to the gym, I feel like the more internal stuff is also important, like being emotionally intelligent and having your core, your center present on sales calls. I feel like that's also a big thing, not just the physical side, because then you get guys who you're on calls with and they're kind of like looking around, right? They're saying things that it's very clear that they don't believe in them, or they're just asking them for the sake of asking instead of caring. So I think it's internal and external, right? It's not just your appearance and the way you carry yourself, but everything that you're putting into you and how you're carrying yourself that way. Thoughts in your mind. Are you staying present? Are you focused on what someone is saying to you and actually listening? I think that's huge as well from what I've seen.
I would 100% agree. That goes back to the classic pyramid, right, of most important things. And at the very bottom is your health, right? So we just chatted about that. You got to be in great peak physical condition, right? And then you've got to be good in your heart. You need to make sure your heart is clean, make sure your heart is pure, make sure you're a man of God or whatever that is going to get you right in your heart. Then you got to make sure your head is clean. So make sure your self-talk is amazing. Tell yourself you love yourself, push yourself harder in the gym, all that good stuff. Once your head is clean, then you can work on your hands, make sure that the way that your tone pops out is clean, make sure that the way that your room looks, right? Use the tools to your advantage, use your hands to enunciate your skills. And then we can get into the how of like, okay, how exactly do I make sure that this business works? So I would say all of that stuff underneath is the most important.
Super important. I only just started learning about the importance of like body language and talking with your hands myself. That's huge. Immediately, it makes it look like you give a shit about what you're saying. It gives you authority as well. And a common question that I got asked when I told people that I was speaking with you here and putting it on the channel was about the best sales reps in the business, right? The best sales rep that you've worked with. What are the things that they've been doing that you've identified are signs that this person is a winner and there's someone to keep around?
Top three traits of the most successful people, and this absolutely carries over to sales. Number one, they believe that they're the best. They believe that they're the freaking man or the woman, and they're like, I am better inherently than other people. Number two, they believe that they're not doing enough and that they're not living up to the expectations or their family expectations or what they're even their potential, right? They're like, I'm not doing enough. That balances out. If you have too much of one and too much of the other, you're either an asshole or you're way too anxious and nobody's going to trust you. And then number three is just you're super duper consistent with your emotions, right? No matter what happens in a situation, you can stay calm. So the confidence is going to play into being able to confidently sell a product. You're not feeling like you're good enough is always going to make you to work harder than everybody else. And your emotional control is going to allow you to handle objections like a boss and handle
Yeah.
team. So
That's the thing. There's no worse thing than when you get an objection. Something stupid like I need to think about it. And your mind's like, oh, not again. Right. You gotta keep your center, you gotta keep focused. And I find that the words just come to you when you're at that point, right? Another thing is, as a COO, that's something that's quite different from just being a traditional closer, right? And from someone who has not only gone from setter to closer, but also closer to COO. I imagine there's a lot of closers out there right now who don't want to just stay as a sales rep. We feel like there's more that they could contribute in order to grow the business further, but they don't know how they can go about that. So how do you cement yourself as a staple in the business and someone whose value extends beyond just taking sales calls and being just another closer?
yeah, I want to preface this by saying make sure you're doing this with the right team. Because you do this with the wrong team, you'll be taken advantage of. But if you find a situation where you really want to stay a part of a team or you really want to be a part of something that you believe has really big leg that's going to keep pushing, take on responsibility that really isn't asked for and don't expect anything in return. The most successful people on our team and the most successful people that I've ever seen are the ones that just take on responsibility and take on tasks without going, well, how am I going to get paid for this? Because that shows that your capabilities and it gives you more it gives you more chances to showcase your skills and show that you're serious, and then more opportunities will be presented to you because people around you will appreciate it, respect it, and want to see more. Yeah.
Action taken. That's the
Action take.
key. Even with clients and clients who get the best results. I think that's something that's also overlooked in the sales space specifically. What I've noticed is that everyone, rightly so, talks about the on-calls, right? How you should present yourself, what you should say, but no one speaks about the handovers. And I've seen it myself where guys have closed people, they've handled objections, and the handovers into the actual delivery for the client has been like non-existent. The clients have been like, hold up, what have I just done here? And in 24 hours, they're getting chargebacks. So talk to me about that process for you with us, right? How do you get smooth handovers from the closer booking that client in with their coach and making sure that they have everything they need to be successful?
Yeah, we learned this at the first time we won the school games, and we sat down with Hermosi and he told us, guys, like if your closers are just closing people and then disappearing, it's kind of a dick move. Like make sure that when you close them, the service doesn't end there. That's when the service really begins. So our standard operating procedure is you close and you answer any questions. You don't take the money and disappear. You go, okay, do you have any questions before we jump off? Then you tell them you're going to send them an email. You loop in the coach or whoever they're working with, send over some homework. Maybe I even, for people that I really like, I put my phone number at the bottom. I'm like, dude, call me, text me if you need anything. Then they are working with their coach. The coach immediately responds to that email. They hop on that first call. They're working together. What's great about our program is that after they've worked with the coach for 2 or 3 days, they get onboarded into a community where they chat with me once a week. And when they get onboarded, I tell them to shoot me a message. And if I'm in the members community and I see a new name pop up, I send them a message. Say, hey, happy you're here. So I keep communication throughout the entire process. And I always will at least one up their level of communication. If they're not responding at all, I'll send one message. If they're responding 5 times, I'll send 6. right? The level that they put in is the level that I'll put in, but I'll go a little bit further. And that is the best way to figure out what they need. And then I just straight point blank ask them like, yo, if we could improve this program at all, like what are you not getting that you need to get? And then if you ask that question to every single client that you sell, then you never have to worry about whether they're getting what they need, or never have to worry about whether or not you did something slimy. Because if you ask the question, they say they need something, get it to them. And if they ask the question, they say they're golden, then feel great about your program and keep selling it.
Huge, huge. A big thing that I used to do was I just always thought after I collect payment and close, that's it, my job's done, right? I wouldn't just jump off immediately after. I'd still make sure that they had everything they needed. But it's like when they was sent to the coach, it was like, okay, I'm never going to hear from them again type thing, right? And that's something that I've just done recently. And I think it's also good just to instill that belief that the product line actually works, because that's something that David Dre, Sam Ovens' best guy, he speaks about, something that I stole from him, is that whenever he's training sales teams, he'll always bring on clients on calls with the team and they'll go through their results and what they've gone through. And every single day, he'll get those reps to look at the results, right? Just instilling the belief in their mind that this product actually works, it gets results. That's the big thing that I think a lot of closers can take away. The sale is not made even after you take payment. You got to always deliver and make sure they get results, right? And did you want to say something on that to
Yeah,
add
yeah,
on?
yeah. I really like that. And that's what differentiates between regular closers, like the average run-of-the-mill closers that like close and dip, which means they're really just focused on profits, and people who are looking to build a community, build a real business, because these clients like have they've put their money where their mouth is. They've not just bought one product. The easiest people to close are people who have already bought your product. So if you're really trying to make money, sell somebody, make sure they get results, and then sell them something twice as expensive right down the road. So if you're really about building a business and really about building your rep, attach your rep to every single person you sell, so that every time you sell somebody, they're putting respect on your name.
Wow. Get clients to fall in love with you. Because
Yeah.
one thing what you mentioned earlier is that they buy because of the person that's in front of them. And it's like, I think a lot of clients probably go through this where they buy and then they're like, hold on, what happened to that guy? Like, he's just gone. Like, did he not like care about me, especially after you have, because having a sales call, it's a vulnerable state that you're in, right? Having an emotional conversation, asking those uncomfortable questions. I think a lot of clients really respect you being genuine and checking in with them and making sure that they have everything they need. And what's cool is when you actually deliver for clients as well. And you get what happened with us a few days ago when we was on a call with a client and we asked him that exact question. Do you feel like there's anything that you need that you aren't getting right now? And his answer was no, I have everything that I need right now. Wild.
Good. It's a really good one.
Wild. I want to wrap this up just by speaking on that, right? And seeing how to get clients more results, because I think a lot of businesses could benefit from hearing more about that. And I know we've spoken about this a few times on the differences between the clients who get the best results and the ones who don't get any results at all. So tell us, Manny, what do you feel like separates those people? What separates the clients who get the best results the fastest and the ones who don't get any at all?
Well, hunger, first of all, right? I would say that people run further away from a cat than they'll run towards the cheese. That's just the reality. So if they've got a really big pain point, then they'll find more success. And if they've got really big dreams, then they'll find great success. So that's very, very useful, right? If you can't lose, then you can't lose because you'll get evicted. So that's a big piece. Hormozy would say the best people are the ones that have hunger and a heart that can never be filled, right? An unfixable heart, because then what else are you gonna do? You just need to keep yourself busy all day. Um, yeah, yeah, those are the big ones: pain points and big dreams.
Pain points and big dreams. Exactly what we saw them on.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. I think we've
What
got it.
would you say? What would you say? You can add on to that. I'm sure you've got
Yeah,
something.
I would just add on to that and say just action taking. If a client is asking me questions, I like that. I'm like, wow, this guy is hungry. So I think clients who do, they just do more and they ask more. I'm cool with giving them that because I know they'll use it and they'll crush. Whereas the clients who I feel like don't are very much content with staying at a slower pace and not making any change. So that's something that I noticed. And that's how you can identify a killer on a call straight away. Are they asking the right questions? And if they're asking you for shit, it's a good sign because it shows they can,
Yeah.
unless it's a refund,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
ask for that.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
agree.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time jumping on with us here. I think that people gained a lot from this, how you can build a 100K month sales team. So appreciate the time, Benny. Good to have you on here. And where can the people find you? Just to wrap up, where can they keep following you, following your journey and everything that you're doing?
Yeah, you can check me out on IG, Benny D Low Key, and you can join our community if you really want some help on making it happen. And if you really, really want some help, book a call with me or the team, and we'll chat with you and figure out how we can get you all set up and booked up so you can make some guapo. Appreciate you watching.
There you have it. Go follow the man. Let's make some money.
Cool. Peace.
Boom.